Hello friends, hi. Here I am today with an impromptu, unplanned, unscheduled video because I just have something that I have to share with you. I haven't been this excited about a project in so long, and actually that's not true. I'm excited about all of my projects. Let me walk you through it. I knit a sweater for each of my boys for Christmas. I've shown them to you. They're both complete except for one is missing buttons, but I'm going to show you them again so that you get the full story. This is a story, okay? This is the journey of my life. So buckle up. I knit this sweater for my first son. You've seen me wear it in my last video. I absolutely love it. He's going to love it. It's called Kai Fella by Knitwits and Yarn. And it's great. Okay, so he's lucky, he's happy, he's got a sweater. Then I knit a sweater for my second son because I knew that he wanted one. My older son didn't specifically ask for one. I just knew that he needed one because he's outgrowing all of his sweaters, and that he is a great kid to knit for because he wears all of his knits all the time and he loves them. So I knit one for him out of necessity. And then for my middle son, he actually asked for a cardigan. So I knit him a cardigan. And our tweed sock held together. It's blocked, it's done, it's just missing buttons. They may or may not happen before it's gifted because that's just the way it is, right? And then in my last video, I was hemming and hawing. I don't know if I'm gonna knit something for my daughter. She doesn't really need a sweater. She does wear the sweaters that she has, but I would call her medium enthusiastic about her knits. She's not unenthusiastic. She runs hot, and I'm thinking, okay, the stuff that she does wear tends to be colorful, and many of her knitted wardrobe has been handed down from her brothers and are way more gender neutral than what she's looking for, which is rainbows, pink and purple. Actually, she doesn't just like pink and purple. They just need to be bright colors, fun colors, okay? I actually don't think that she would be particularly stoked about either of these sweaters. This one is colorful, but it has brown, and she would immediately point to the brown and be like, I don't like that. She would like this. She'd be like, that's dark, that's light, you know. She wants only this. Anyway. The point of that, me telling you that, is just to say that I find her a little bit, she's just pickier than her brothers are. They're not as picky. So she's a bit harder for me to decide what to make for her. And you're like, just knit her a bright sweater. I have. And I do. And she does wear them. She doesn't need anything. Anyways, I wasn't feeling super called to knit her something. I didn't have a pattern in mind, a yarn in mind that I wanted to use. She's also more picky than the boys are about how things feel on her. If she wears something that she finds uncomfortable, she takes it off right away, you know what I mean? Anyways, so I'm going through, but also feeling like I've knit both of my sons something. I need to knit something for her, and it needs to be a sweater. I can't just make her a hat and be like, here, you get a hat, your brothers get a sweater, because she'll know there's a difference. Because she just wants everything to be the same, you know? Last year at Christmas, so I get my kids, and Chris and I usually, PJs. They'll be open on Christmas Eve, so we spend Christmas morning in our new Christmas PJs, right? It's our family tradition. So I bought the boys PJs that have a shirt and pants, and I bought her the nightgown version. It was the same fabric, but it was a nightgown rather than a shirt and pants. Oh my God, was she ever pissed? I thought she would love it because it was like a dress. It was a nightgown that she would think it was super fun, but she was just not impressed with the fact that hers was different. So it's they need to be the same. Anyways, I'm going through my Ravelry library, looking to see if I have any patterns that are just really screaming to be knit for her. And what do I find but the Tutu top by Froggynet. And I think that I saved this pattern when I was pregnant with my first son. I don't know how old it is. I should double check that. That might not be, technically possible. But it has been I've owned the pattern, intending to knit it, I mean, gosh, maybe my first niece is 10 and a half. I wonder if I was planning to maybe knit it for her. I'm not sure, but I own the pattern. I absolutely love it. I think it's just the cutest thing. And it's so feminine in the details, you know, like it's kind of like shaped like a dress. It's got this frill. It is absolutely something that my daughter is going to adore in terms of the style and the shape of it. So I was like, yes, that's the pattern for me. That's what I'm going to knit. And my favorite version of that sweater that I've seen is actually knit in this yarn, okay? This Noro Silk Garden in the color, I think it's called 001. This is my Skylights sweater that I absolutely love. And it's knit in that color, and this color is just sensational. I absolutely love it. Here's where my long story comes in, okay? So get ready. 8 years ago, and I've mentioned this in a previous episode, I dyed up a bunch of roving to spin myself a sweater's worth of yarn, and my intention was for the resulting yarn to be soft, subtle, pastel-y, a lot of neutral. This was my inspiration. I was like, rather than buying the yarn that I love, I'm going to see if I can make it. So I dyed the yarn. I spun my first 200-gram braid into what ended up being like a bulky, like a chunky gauge yarn, and didn't love it. I was like, oh no, it's too colorful. It's not what I'm looking for. It looked something like this. This is not that original skein. This skein is one that I then spun later on. That's more of like a sport weight, fingering weight. But this is like the color, and you can see, yeah, it's like got shades of similarities, but it's not the same, right? It's like really pastel, it's really blue, it's kind of bright compared to this. What is that perfect for? Who is that just screaming? It's screaming Willow. It would be perfect for her. So I knit up a swatch. Look at that. And actually the thing that's hysterical to me, I was like hysterically laughing. No, I wasn't hysterically laughing. But as I was knitting it, this is actually like exactly what I was going for. Now this part, the darker, like where we get the darker blues and the brighter kind of turquoise, that part is what threw me off. It's what threw me off in the skein. When the yarn is in the skein, it's like all these brighter turquoise bits. But there's a lot of lighter bits in there that I was quite surprised by. I'm like, oh my God, 8 years later, this is actually what I wanted, sort of. So I knit the swatch. Gorgeous. My gauge came out a little bit bigger than what the pattern called for, so I had to make a few adjustments. That worked out fine because it just made it a quicker knit. And then I cast on, and look at her go. Look at that. I'm just going to hold it here for the rest of the episode. I mean, this pink section down here, like, I am so delighted. I can't even tell you. I can't even explain. So I have this much of my 200 grams left. I don't even know I haven't weighed it. I have to do I-cord around the neck with a little loop for a button. That's how the neck is done, and that's gorgeous. And then I'm deciding on what to do for the sleeves. I don't know that I'm going to do long sleeves. I might just do short sleeves because I don't know if I'm going to have enough to do 2 long sleeves. First of all, I think I probably will not. We'll see. The gauge that I'm getting is, the pattern gauge is it 17 stitches and 4 inches? And I'm at more like 15 and a half stitches and 4 inches. So I'm actually knitting the size 2. I'm using the size 2 circumference measurements, but then going with the size 4 for like length and gauging that way, because my daughter is a very petite 4. And with the different gauge and that, it's all, I think, it's working out. It's going to be fine. But I'm so happy with how it ended up. So admittedly, it is not the same color as this, okay? So I made the right decision when I decided to knit this for my daughter rather than the sweater for myself that I had initially envisioned. It does not give me this, which is what I initially wanted. But now I have this, and now I'm over it, okay? Like, I don't need everything that I spin to be this. So, and I'm using, so the skirt is, it's not a skirt, it's like a peplum, like a tutu, a little ruffle. It's knit in, I think the pattern specifies mohair. Mohair is something fluffy and lace weight, okay, for like this like really gorgeous thing. And I'm using this by Smiling Dog Yarn, and it's the colorway Lake, and it's Surrey alpaca. Friends, it's the first time that I've knit with lace weight Surrey, and I think it's changed my life. I love mohair. I'll say it all the time. I love the halo that it gives. I actually held mohair together with the Noro Silk Garden when I knit this sweater. I think it's super, super soft. This is softer. It is. And I do hear from people all the time who are like, oh, I love the look of mohair, but I can't wear it. Like I can't tolerate it. And I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but people who can't tolerate mohair can often tolerate Surrey. And now I'm like, well, we should definitely be dyeing Surrey. It's incredibly beautiful. It's softer than mohair, I think. Yeah, I don't know what more to tell you about that. Look at how gorgeous the color is. It matches my sweater perfectly. And so this is the only sweater in my holiday knits that I'm making for my kids that I'm having to knit in secret. And I'll tell you why. I told you last week that I don't knit in secret because my kids are oblivious to what I'm making because I'm always knitting, right? So they like don't take note, they don't care. I knit this swatch and it was sitting on the side of the sofa and my daughter grabbed it and like ran away with it. Where are you going? What are you doing? I need to measure my gauge. She just loved it. She was like, it's just so pretty. And I was like, well, A, that's great. That's a good sign. She's going to love her sweater. But also that means that like if she saw me knitting it, she would be intrigued and she would say, is that for me? Like, you know, she would ask. So I'm knitting hers only after she's gone to bed. But obviously, you know, she's 4. She gives me several hours in the evening to knit. And I've also snuck in a few rows when she's at daycare. But it's like I say, it's a big gauge and she's a small person. And also knitting with handspun. I mean, I'm just dying like watching the colors shift. And so it's basically knitting itself. This will be done in time for Christmas for sure. Could not be happier with it. And now I feel like my life is complete because this yarn, you know, I started off by saying I started spinning this 8 years ago with a plan. The plan didn't work. It didn't turn out the way I wanted it. I had no idea. I knew I would use it for something, but I'm just so glad. Also, I had only one skein, one 200-gram skein that was in this kind of chunky gauge. My other skeins, which I will show, I have 6 other. These ones are all, am I missing one? Did one fall? Yeah, one fell. I have 6 others that look like this that are all like a fingering sport weight. And because they were all spun at different times, like they're so different. Like they're even like different colors because of just like different methods. Not methods of spinning. I spin everything the same way, but just like with so much time in between the spinning, just the way I drafted it, they just turned out different. Like I think people who spin sweaters, generally you spin all your singles and then you do all the plying so that like all the yarn comes out the same. That's not my style. So I'm more excited to use that other hand spun to knit something for myself. So now I will knit myself the sweater. I still think, I think I have a lot. I think I have enough to make like 2 sweaters. So I still think I'm going to make a fingering weight version of this sweater because it's like full circle. This one is chunky. I love this motif. It's got like a wide neckline that often falls off the shoulder. It makes me look very sultry. It's got a wide sleeve, which I love. Anyways, but knitting it in like a smaller gauge in the handspun with the fun motif and making it a bit more spring summer instead of this is like too warm to wear in the spring summer. That's for sure. That's sort of my intention at the moment. I think it'll be really pretty. And that's what I wanted to jump on and talk about. I hope that you can sense my enthusiasm. For this project. I'm so thrilled to be able to give this to her. I think she's going to love it. And I'm also just so happy to have used my handspun. And, you know, it's so satisfying, isn't it? To use yarn that you've been stashing for like 8 years. In the perfect project, too. Like the thing that is really showing it in its best light. And which I know is going to be so loved. So, yeah, it's so delightful. All right, so that's it. I just wanted to fill you in on what I am enthusiastically working on currently. And if you're distracted by my eyeshadow, I don't blame you. It's by Cleona Cosmetics, a Canadian indie eyeshadow company. I think they make nail polish as well, and they make these just incredible duochrome, multi-chrome, glittery, everything. Art supply. They're like art supplies is what I'm trying to say. Eyeshadows, and they are just divine. So I hope that you enjoyed this quick little number, and I will see you again soon. Thanks for watching.